This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Rigari Financial. Wherever you are today in Southern California, we appreciate your deciding to spend a little time with us. I'm Ron Stutz, and Logan, how's it going, my man?
I tell you what, it's going rather well today. How's your day going so far?
Not so bad. Kind of busy, but that's a good thing. And we're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement as always. I don't know of anybody better than that doing that than Logan Sadler. And we're going to talk about some subjects that are near and dear to your heart, or at least should be. And here's how you can get in touch with Rigari Financial and enjoy a conversation with Logan Sadler. All you got to do is call 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. And that's good for a discovery meeting. We'll talk about that more as the show goes on today. Hey, first of all, kind of a funny story here out of Colorado. An instructor at a driving school in Colorado accidentally drove into the school building while attempting to park his Hyundai Tucson. Lakewood, Colorado police shared a photo of the crash, which showed the car inside the driving school's front window under a huge sign that says, "Learn to drive."
Sometimes it's too good to be true, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it couldn't possibly work out better for the messaging for the police department.
Yeah, no. Hopefully everybody's okay and all that, like you said. Yeah. But it's that is funny how sometimes things will work out, and it just happens to be that there's a good meme there to be made, right?
Yeah, and every now and then you hear about somebody crashing into a building or through a plate glass window or whatever the case may be. But, sometimes it's a matter of not knowing what you're doing. Sometimes it's a matter of hitting the accelerator instead of the brake.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of that. Well, let's talk about Social Security. I know that's one of your favorite topics because you get lots of questions about it. Some lesser-known Social Security facts. There's a lot that the average person doesn't know or fully understand about Social Security. And so, Logan, today let's explore some of these lesser-known facts. First of all, on the subject of work credits, there's some things that folks don't know. Explain that to us, if you would.
Yeah, and on this segment, like you said, Ron, Social Security is one of those topics that I do tend to talk about quite a bit with clients because, again, most of our clients are typically gearing up for retirement and planning for retirement. And as many of you know, it becomes a pretty big part of a lot of people's retirement. So, back to your question there, Ron, on work credits. So a lot of people aren't really sure how Social Security is calculated. And for basically how it goes is Social Security benefits are based on work credits, right? So you earn one credit for each $1,400 you earn, essentially, up to the maximum of 4 credits per year, right? So most people need around 40 credits, which is approximately 10 years of work to qualify for the retirement benefits. So that is how a lot of people's Social Security is calculated, is based off those work credits.
Okay, on the subject of spousal benefits, I know you got a lot of questions about that. What do folks need to know?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. I always tell clients when we're running you run your Social Security reports, clients bring them in, or sometimes we'll even do it at the office, and just to make sure we can understand where the reports are coming from and the numbers. Because you ask somebody, if I said, "Hey, Ron, what would your Social Security be at X age?" We could all kind of guess, right? But it's never exact, so it's nice to pull up that report. And off there, you can kind of see some of the benefits that might be available. The spousal benefit is one that a lot of people aren't really sure on. And basically, you can receive benefits as a spouse or a survivor, even if once you've reached your retirement benefits or your retirement age. But you can't receive 2 full benefits, right? So you don't get both benefits, but basically you'll get the higher of the 2, especially if something does happen to somebody passing away. You typically get to keep the higher one of the 2.
And another thing, as far as spouses are concerned, there are benefits available sometimes for ex-spouses, former spouses. And again, this is another one of these little obscure things that most people don't know about.
Yep. Yeah, so if you were married to someone for at least 10 years is the number, and then divorce, you might still be eligible for benefits based on your ex-spouse's work record, right? So for a lot of people out there, they're like, yeah, I was married, but I'm not anymore. Well, when were you married, right? If you were married for them for at least 10 years, you might be entitled to some benefits there. And it doesn't actually reduce the other person's or the ex-spouse's benefits just because you're drawing off of it. It's actually a nice little benefit that's actually baked in there to the Social Security, and again, can make a rather big difference for a lot of people on their retirement.
I'm guessing that a lot of people don't even know about that.
Yes, you are right. When I tell them that, they go, really? Okay, that I wonder what it would be. And then I typically help them find that out. And then it's like, wow, that's a lot more than I ever thought I would get, right? So it's definitely an exciting time when you find a little bit of some monthly income there.
For those people who decide to take Social Security rather early, there's something called an earnings test. What's that all about?
Yeah, so basically, a lot of people just start to take benefits without really looking at when they should take them based off their plan as well as their earnings, right? So if you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and still work, your benefit could be temporarily reduced if you earn more than a certain amount, right? So, however, at a full retirement age, your benefit will be recalculated and you'll receive credit for those withheld benefits. So it is one of those things where when you're looking at your Social Security, and if you're still working and making a good income, right? So it depends on which years you're talking about. In 2023, the amounts are still rather low. So if you're still working and making over X amount, you probably don't want to take your Social Security. You might want to wait until full retirement age, or at least until retirement, and then you can get a better idea where your wages will be, because you don't want to get caught in a situation where you're giving up Social Security when you might have, or giving up some of your Social Security, I should say, when you might have needed that higher amount maybe next year or the following year down the road in retirement.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Rigari Financial, and we're talking about Social Security and some of the things that I guess you would call these little-known facts. This doesn't seem like it would be right, but I suppose it is. It's a law. Benefits can be garnished. A lot of people, I'm sure, don't realize that until that happens. They owe some kind of debt, and then their Social Security wages are garnished. And I don't know. I guess most people don't know about that one either.
Yeah, what's funny is I have only most of our clients, I'd say by most, I mean everybody I've ever talked to but one I've ever seen that actually happen. But I have seen one person who was rather in let's call it in financial struggles, I'll say, right?
Yeah.
And they did end up saying that they did have some of their wages from Social Security garnished.
Wow.
So I'm sure it's doable, right? I mean, I would say any government program is probably reachable by the government, right? So hopefully none of you guys out there fall into that rule.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of, really surprises some people when they find out, and it seems on the surface that it's unfair, sometimes you're taxed on your Social Security benefits.
Yeah, that's another thing, like you said, Ron, that it kind of goes back to the that earnings test we're talking about income, is, basically the tax you pay on your Social Security is really based on the total income that you have, right? Your total income is low enough, your Social Security won't be taxed at all. Or if you have enough total income to where basically you're over the thresholds, then you can be taxed about 85% of your Social Security will count as taxable income, right? So it's one of those things where you really want to be looking at where you're at in your planning strategies and when's a good time to take Social Security, because I've told that story on here before, right? About a person at the gym walking on the treadmill, and I'm trying to mind my business in the morning, and he just gets advice from his friend on the treadmill that everybody should start Social Security at 62 or 63 or 64. And it's one of those things where really depending on your situation and what your plan looks like, and again, many people listen to the show right now might not have that comprehensive plan, so you might not understand all the intricate parts. But if you're out there listening, I definitely recommend go sit down with an advisor, look at your IRAs, your 401ks, your pensions, what your tax brackets are going to kind of look like throughout retirement, and then help kind of factor in what type of income you need in retirement, and then that'll help you kind of get a very clear understanding of when you should take Social Security, because you don't want to be caught in a situation where you're maybe paying a little bit more in taxes than you should have been, or getting a reduced benefit because we took it too early. And, you don't want to be looking back a few years later and saying, man, I wish I would have talked to somebody and done something a little bit different. So there's definitely a lot of intricate parts of not just Social Security, but also retirement planning. And many of you out there, we always talk about there's many different tools and many different solutions and strategies that are out there, but a lot of people don't understand or really aren't aware of how those might pertain to them or what ways they could really increase their retirement, right? You hear a lot of advisors just talking about investments or investment returns and things like that, which, again, they are important, but also looking at the full comprehensive plan is really where our specialty is, and where I think a lot of people really need to spend the time to make sure that they have that full comprehensive plan to understand where their income is going to come from, what type of tax situations they're looking like in their retirement, as well as what is their overall risk levels and how long is this plan going to be built to last.
If you want to have a conversation about Social Security, there are so many little things that you may not know about it. And Logan Sadler is well versed in this and has, of course, experienced it vicariously through a lot of clients over the years. And if you would like to find out more, if you like to have a discovery meeting, a getting to know you, a conversation with Logan Sadler is free. 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call to make it happen. That's 888-823-7526. But the easy way to remember it is by using the word plan. We all need a Social Security plan. Need to figure out exactly when you're going to take it and all that kind of thing, but also a plan in general financially. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. You can talk with Logan Sadler. No cost, no obligation. Logan and I will be right back with more of the Financial Beat in just a moment.
Are you worried about whether you're ready for retirement? Logan Sadler and the team at Regary Financial can help. Just text the word ADVICE to 21,000 to take Regary Financial's free Retirement Roadmap Checkup. Text the word ADVICE to 21,000 and we'll send you a link to all of our free resources. From there, you can click on the button for the Retirement Roadmap Checkup. You'll just have to answer a few questions, and then you can see how prepared you are for retirement. This is a great starting point for people just starting to think about retirement. Text the word ADVICE to 21,000 to get your free Retirement Roadmap Checkup today. That's the word ADVICE to 21000.
Hi, I'm a cleverly devised personification of Wall Street. I'm one wild roller coaster ride away from wreaking havoc on your investments, and I love to mess with your emotions. If you're not properly diversified, you can bet I'll keep you up all night thinking about me. If you want to keep me off your mind, you really need a trusted advisor who'll look after your best interests. You also need a custom-designed financial plan that'll protect you from market volatility. Otherwise, when I take a plunge, I'll send you scrambling through your filing cabinet, hoping you were well prepared. Don't wait for turmoil to hit.
In Southern California, call Logan Sadler and the Regary Financial Team at 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526.
It's getting to know you time.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. And Logan, in the interest of having our listeners get to know you a little bit better, what is your favorite season?
Man, that's a great question. It's funny because you're going to love this answer. During summer, my favorite season is winter, and during winter, my favorite season is summer, right? We always want what we can't have, but no, joking, probably summer. I enjoy the long days where it stays light very late. That way we can go golf in the afternoon or go to the park with the family or just do more activities, mow my grass later in the day, all those other things. So I would say the summer, not a huge fan of the heat, but I would say I think I like a lot of the benefits more that come with summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, interesting what you said about during summer, my favorite one is winter, and during winter, it's my favorite one is summer, et cetera.
Yep.
But, thanks for breaking it all down for us.
That's what we're here to do.
Now we know you a little bit better.
Awesome.
Logan Sadler at the Regary Financial, and this show is the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz. We'll have more coming up.
Are you tired of feeling like taxes are draining your bank account? Do you want to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket? Then download Logan Sadler's 2023 Guide to Tax Planning. This guide is your key to tax optimization and is filled with expert advice, the latest tax laws, and strategies for reducing your tax burden. With the help of Regary Financial and Insurance, you can rest assured that you're making the most of your retirement savings. Just text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 and get the guide for free. Just text ADVICE to 21000.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. Regary has 2 convenient offices in Hemet and also Redlands. Wherever you are in Southern California, you can benefit from all the experience and the know-how that's available at Regary Financial. Logan Sadler, of course, works with folks of all different income levels and everything else, and 3 different generations of folks. Some of the client families. Many of the clients have been with the firm for more than a quarter of a century. And you can reach Regary Financial by calling 888-823-PLAN. Leave your name and your phone number. You'll get a call back, and then you can arrange a discovery meeting at a convenient time with Logan Sadler. That's right. You're going to talk to Logan, the same person you hear on this show every single week, and he's not going to put you off on anybody else. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. Logan, we started off the show today with a rather unusual thing about this instructor at a driving school driving through the window of the actual building where the driving school is located. But another fun fact, I think, here is an adult male grizzly bear can eat as many as 200,000 berries in a single day.
Wow. That's a lot of berries. I got heartburn thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think the most amazing thing is, first of all, how do they know that? And second of all, where are you going to find 200,000 berries in a single day?
No kidding. Like you said, how do they know that? Did someone sit there and have to test that and count to 200,000? That'd be a long day.
I don't know. I don't want to get close enough to a grizzly bear to find out anything like that. So
no, I'm with you. They're pretty on TV, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's talk about airbags. In your car, you have airbags, to protect you from, serious injury in the event of a crash. But let's talk about some financial airbags. Mm-hmm. You probably never think about the airbag in your car. It's there, but when the rare moment comes that you need it, you're awfully glad that it's there. But let's talk about some of the airbags in the financial world, things that don't matter until they do. It's not important until it's important, in other words. Mm-hmm. There are financial airbags involved with legal documents. I mean, legal documents are so important. You got to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted correctly. Talk about that, if you would, for a moment. How are we relating that to an airbag?
Yeah, legal documents are one of those things where, it's not like a lot of people go around and pat themselves on the back because they have a trust, right? We don't talk about it every day. A lot of times people are really excited that they have legal documents and they throw them in their safe spot, in their safe or their file drawer or wherever it is, and we forget all about them, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things where it is one of those very, very important matters that when you look at a financial plan, I always tell clients, whether it's a retirement plan or just a general financial plan, having proper legal documents is about as important as it gets too, right? So when you look at all the other components that we talk about in the show, I mean, whether it's investments or tax planning or all these other strategies, they're all great, right? But so is having a solid estate plan. And that starts with the legal documents. Now, for a lot of you out there, it might be a will or a trust or power of attorney documents, things like that, where they don't necessarily make for the best dinner conversation, right? But they can make a world of difference on your family if something were to happen to you, whether you passed away or whether you were incapacitated or whatever the matter might be. It is something that becomes probably the most important thing you would have put in place at that time, right? So a lot of us out there, when we're getting ready to retire, that's obviously one of the first questions we ask is, do you have an attorney, or do you have an estate plan? Do you have any documents drawn up? And it's a surprising, overwhelming answer of no, right? Majority of the people do not have a proper estate plan put in order, and it's one of those things where when you need one, you can't get one, right? That's what we always like to say, because it's one of those where once something goes bad and it's an urgent matter, those aren't very quick to get, as well as if something drastically happened, you can't even get them anymore, right? If someone's no longer of sound mind and things like that. So it is a very, very urgent matter to make sure that you have set up, and it is as important as an airbag, right? When you crash, those airbags can be about as important as anything else in the car, and just like those legal documents.
We're talking about financial airbags on today's edition of the Financial Beat. And, we sometimes talk about putting barriers between your health and your wealth. And there are so many cases that I'm sure you've seen of folks who have been financially devastated by some form of, long-term illness, and it can be really, really damaging to your financial future. But how about long-term care protections? Talk about that and how they can act as a financial airbag.
Yeah, long-term care is one of those things where if not prepared for, right, it could be rather expensive. And the overwhelming statistics, right, of people over, I think it's over age 60 or 62, something like that, where, majority of us, it's like 60% of people will spend some time in a nursing home care facility or some type of facility, right? And so whether that's 1 week or whether that's 3 years, that's the tough part, right? But either way, it's one of those things that could become very, very expensive. And if not planned for properly inside of a plan, it could be very detrimental to the overall outcome of the plan. Because a lot of us out there, when we're building out these plans, when I'm asking questions with clients and things like that, when they come into our office or we're on a Zoom, a lot of you out there driving around are saying things like, I want to leave behind a legacy, right? I'd like to leave some money behind to my kids, or I'd like to make sure my wife's taken care of or my husband's taken care of. The problem is, if we have a $200,000-$300,000 bill due on long-term care when something happens to us, or if something happens to us, it becomes one of those things where it could really take away a lot of that legacy that we were trying to leave behind, right? Or can significantly reduce the other spouse or the surviving spouse's next income picture, right? So it's one of those things, by having a solid long-term care policy or plan put into your actual retirement plan, can be a very, very big airbag to help really kind of I would say limit the blows, so to speak, when you're looking at the impact of that on your plan.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Again, the phone number, if you'd like to get in touch with Logan and talk about any of these things at no charge and no obligation at all, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. I'll give you that number again coming up in just a few minutes here. But in what ways can life insurance be a financial airbag?
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones too, right? I would say all these are actually pretty good. So, but it has to be one of the major ones to be talked about. And I've seen clients just cancel life insurance policies and not even really think twice about it. But when you look at one of these things is, unfortunately, a lot of life insurance policies out there have very bad stigma around them as far as salesmen and things like that pushing life insurance. But the problem is, it is one of those tools that is very, very important, right? When you look at, there's a few different reasons why somebody might need a life insurance policy. But one of the major ones I would say is if something happens to the spouse, especially the breadwinner, if something happened to that person that's making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 per year, what would happen if something happened to them, right? How would your financial outlook for your family change? And the answer for most people is it would drastically change, right? We have, a couple thousand, we have maybe 10, 15, 20,000 in a savings account, and then some 401ks maybe and things like that. And after that, that's about it, right? So when you look at what life insurance can provide, it can provide that larger death benefit to where if something did happen, you might have $200,000 a term coming in, or $1 million, or 500, or whatever the amount is based off your income. But it's one of those things where I have personally seen it with our clients many, many times, unfortunately, where somebody passes away. And I've seen two different ways, right? I've seen the ones that had life insurance, and it's one of those things where it's a great feeling to know that they're not having to worry about the financial end of this, right? Now all we got to do is worry about the emotional impact and that day-to-day impact. Not, okay, my husband or my wife just died, now I'm broke, right? And I'm not going to be able to pay the rent. But now it's like, okay, my husband or wife died, but I'm going to be okay financially. Now I can actually grieve and take care of the things I need to from an emotional standpoint. So life insurance, Ron, is probably one of the most critical components to a plan.
Okay, one more thing I wanted to mention here, and this is something that we talk about all the time, every show, whether we're talking about airbags or whatever the conversation is. Lifetime income streams, so important. And if you have lifetime income streams set up, that can be a very big financial airbag.
Yeah, it really can. I have a lot of different programs we've used, and I've shown them on the YouTube channels and things like that, where I've talked about like income shortfalls and stuff like that, and having guaranteed income. And there's a few different ways to get it, right? But mainly you're talking about pensions, you're talking about Social Security, and you're talking about annuities, right? So those three areas are typically where you can get that guaranteed paycheck, right? Now, when you look at retirement, Ron, I mean, we always talk about what do we do with our working career, right? We work 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and we've had a paycheck that whole time. Now, most of us want that next paycheck. And the problem is there's only really a few ways to get the guaranteed paychecks. And then there's also a lot of other ways that aren't guaranteed, but have been proven well in the past. Things like real estate, things like stocks, things like bonds, things like CDs or fixed income can be a pretty good way to generate income. Unfortunately, though, you can't say the word guarantee, right? So when you're talking about guaranteed lifetime income, I always ask clients, they're like, well, can I get more by doing other things? Well, yeah, you probably can get more income, but it would not have that word guaranteed in it, right? And so for a lot of us out there, I know when we're putting together those financial plans, these 4 things we talked about are just as crucial to the retirement plan as anything, right? So we talked about 4 of them, and we talk about all the time for our plans. When a client comes into our office and they say, hey, Logan, we'd like to interview your firm and see if you're a good fit for our retirement planner. And we look at, well, let's make sure that our retirement plan we're building you has the 5 pillars of retirement planning, right? We feel income planning, investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and legacy planning are the 5 things that every retirement plan needs, right? And it might be a little bit different for each of you out there, but those 5 topics are as crucial to a retirement plan as anything, to make sure that you have a plan that's going to be built to get you to retirement, but also carry you throughout your retirement. So if you're one of those people out there that is maybe already has a financial advisor, or maybe you're looking for a financial advisor and you're getting close to retirement, or maybe just started retirement and you're wondering if we might be a good fit for you, it'd definitely be a good time to give us a call and come into one of our offices, or we could hop on a Zoom and see if we're a good fit and see if our firm could bring some value to you and your family.
Arrange a discovery meeting, no cost and no obligation. It's kind of a good way to get to know Logan Sadler and get some answers to some of the concerns that you have. 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN, your number to call for Regary Financial. One more time, that is 888-823-PLAN. Call that number. All you have to do today during the show is leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back first part of the week from the good folks at Regary and arrange a time to have that conversation. Now, Logan will be happy to sit down and talk with you via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices, Hammond or Redlands, your choice. But again, it's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that conversation. 888-823-PLAN. We're talking about getting you to and through retirement as always, and we'll have more coming up after this quick timeout.
This is the Financial Beat.
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. I call him your financial maestro. He's the VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial, serving you in Southern California. If you'd like to find out more about getting to and through retirement, stay with us here. We're going to talk about some more interesting topics coming up in just a moment. But I wanted to remind everybody that Logan Sadler is also available not just on this radio show, but in a variety of podcasts out there if you missed any of our shows, and YouTube videos. They're all over the place. Logan, how do you get those done? First of all, those YouTube videos, and how do folks get to them?
Yeah, so if you like the sound of the radio show you're listening to right now, you can head over to podcasts. We do have a podcast platform where you can head over to, Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever it is you download podcasts, and type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler and follow along. There's over 100 episodes now, I believe, up there for you to check out at your convenience. And again, one of them is bound to bring some value to you guys. And then we also have the YouTube channel. So a lot of you guys have been heading over there, clicking subscribe and liking, and we appreciate it. The channel, again, is called The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and that's on YouTube. And we do a video every single week on a short topic that a lot of you guys have been asking questions on or might have concerns about. We've been heading over to the YouTube channel and doing a quick little, 3 to 5 minute video to help give you some more insight, maybe even some visuals and some illustrations into how these topics or solutions might bring some value to you in your retirement. So head on over there and click subscribe.
Well, let me say that those are very helpful and very well done. Everybody appreciates it. Again, Logan Sadler's phone number, you want to have a conversation with him, 888-823-PLAN. More on that later on. Got a quote of the week here from Margaret Mead, and I like this one. You talk with a lot of people who say, they struggle a little bit figuring out when they're going to retire, but there are some people who will just say to you right up front, I'm never going to retire.
Yep.
Here's the quote from Margaret Mead. She said, sooner or later, I'm going to die, but I'm not going to retire. I guess she loves what she was doing,
Yeah, it's one of those things where you want to build it to where you're able to retire whenever you want to, right? But if you want to keep working, you can, right? That's kind of the whole goal. Unfortunately, though, sometimes some people aren't doing the planning, and you just got to keep working, right? So there's both sides of that, but that's a great quote.
Yeah. Let's talk about spending personalities. I know that you talk with people who have all different sorts of personalities and the way they feel about money and the way they act with money. And before you can effectively put together a retirement income plan, it's important to understand, your own tendencies for spending. Yep. And if you're listening to the show today, talk with Logan Sadler. He's pretty good at figuring out, what people are like, because it's important for him to get to know you before he can really help you to your best advantage. Let's explore some of the different personalities. First of all, there's some folks out there who I would call emotional spenders. You have folks who fit into that category, I'm sure. And what do you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. This might be some of you listen to the show, right? Not calling anybody out, but there might be some of you out that this might pertain to. And I think all of us are guilty of one form of these or another. But, looking at the emotional spender, Ron, I would say that's probably somebody that not necessarily someone who loves to shop or spend money, but they allow their emotions to affect that spending habit, right? So, example, right? I've had a great day today. I got a promotion. Let's go out and celebrate, right? On the flip side, right, man, I've had a terrible day. Let's go grab a drink or go grab something to eat, right? It's one of those things where it's good or bad. They're going to turn that into an excuse or I would say a situation where they're going to say, let's go take the edge off and spend some money, right? So that's somebody that I might even categorize too, Ron, where maybe they're really tired and stressed.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Let's go out to eat. Let's go do what we got to do, right? So one of those things where we could all categorize that type of spender. One thing I always say, and I'm one of those financial advisors, I'm human, right? I understand a lot of these types of spending habits, and I get that, if you get a raise at work or you get a promotion or you just have a really good day, sometimes it's okay to go out there and, really just make sure you're enjoying life, right? But also you got to be very calculated and make sure that you're just not coming up with these fun excuses to spend extra money.
Yeah, this is hitting a little bit too close to home for me. So, hey, we had a great day. Let's go out and have dinner. I can identify with that for sure. How about the YOLO spender? You only live once. That's their philosophy about spending money and about everything else, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have this friend or family member, right? Where right when we heard that, their picture probably popped right into your head, right? And I can think of quite a few of family or friends and even clients where they'll say, well, you know what? I only got $20,000 in my savings, but I'm taking this $10,000 trip to Hawaii or to Ireland or wherever it's at, right? They could always kind of justify it, right? Where they're very easily on board, right? And they can live that lavish lifestyle and really kind of justify it by, well, I might not be here tomorrow, right? And I always kind of say, well, I get it. You do have to live life like this might be your last day, but you do have to plan, like, what if it's not, right? What if it's not your last day? What if it's not your last year? What if it's not even your last decade, right? So you got to look at things from both sides and make sure that you're not just overly spending just to justify the fun moment.
Yeah. There are people out there who have trouble, saving for one reason or another. Some of these we just talked about, but there are some people out there who I would classify as savvy spenders, and you are more likely to have some of those after you've worked with them for a while, I guess. But have you met many of those folks who come in and they fit into that category right away?
Yeah, I have. What's funny is I think by nature, this is kind of where I would probably put myself. I'm going to throw myself under the bus, where I would say I'm very, obviously I spend money, but I'm very calculated when I do spend money, right? And I think I've had many clients where a lot of times maybe engineers or things like that, where they really think through the pros and cons of things. And again, they still spend money. They still have things that they're going to do, but they kind of tend to be able to look at things that they need with a very frugal mindset, right? Where they'll look at things about, okay, if I gotta buy new clothes, or I gotta buy a new boat, or whatever it is that they're gonna buy, they might really look over the pros and cons of this, right? They might look at ways of how to save for it. They might delay things, and looking at, I would say, quality over quantity, right? And they're willing to pay a little bit more for something, but it's got to really feel worth it. My wife, for example, I drive her nuts when I go shopping, because I'll talk about, let's just say, golf, right? I'll say, you know what, I really want a new driver, right? And I've been saying that for 2.5 years, right? And I'll walk into a store like Dick's or Golf Galaxy or somewhere like that and say, this is it. And then I think about it for about a half hour, and then I go, I don't know if this is it. I might want to wait, right? So I'm one of those where I'm going to spend the money eventually, but it's one of those things where I really want to make sure I need it and it's the one I want before I buy it.
So that drives your wife crazy?
Drives her crazy. She's one of those where obviously nobody likes when the other spouse spends money, but she's just kind of like, buy it, get it over with. That way I don't have to hear you talk about it anymore, right?
That's funny. Well, there are some people out there who I wouldn't fit you into this category, because, this is a really extreme case, but there are some people out there who are misers, and, they don't even if they've done a good job saving money, they don't really take the time to enjoy any of it.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that. I've seen that a lot where clients, and you have to think about it from this mindset. That's what I always tell clients. My job is never to judge or never to try to change opinions or things like that, but it's really just to bring perspective. And I always say when I'm looking at clients like this is I get the mindset, right? You saved as hard as you can. So I have clients, Ron, I've told you these stories many times on the show, but I have clients that didn't make more than $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, and they retired with over $1 million, right? And it's one of those things where they see that and they go, man, it took me my whole life to save this, right? And so when they're ready to retire, they're not in spending mode. They're in, I don't want to lose this mode, or I don't want to blow it and spend it on things I don't really need, so I'm just not going to do anything, right? Yeah. And it's one of those things where you really want to make sure there is balance, right? Like I said, you don't want to be that YOLO spender, as you had mentioned, where they're going to blow every last dollar just because it's you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. But you also don't want to be that person that is always cutting corners or always looking for the cheapest cost. And one of those things where you're just not really willing to separate with things can also be the extreme other end, right? So I think when it comes to spending, and especially with the clients we're talking about, and typically what this show is all kind of geared towards most people that are kind of planning and preparing for retirement. You might be 40 or 50 years old. You might be 60 or 70 years old. But I think understanding your spending personality is something that a lot of us don't like to do, right? We don't like to categorize us in any one of these things. But it's okay whichever one you are. But you just got to identify what your weaknesses are and also what your pros and your strengths are, right? So especially when you look at getting a retirement plan together, I always tell clients it doesn't matter if your retirement income is going to be $10,000 a month. If you need $15,000 to live off of, it's not a great retirement income, right? You got to understand what type of spender you are, what type of spending you're going to be in retirement. Also, what type of income are we going to have, and what type of assets will we have to support this throughout the retirement plan.
If you want to talk about all of this kind of thing with Logan Sadler, no matter what personality you are, believe me, he's dealt with just about all the different types for sure. Call 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. And you can set up a time to have a discovery meeting. Now, when we say discovery meeting, we're simply talking about a getting to know you conversation. You get an opportunity to get to know Logan. He gets to know you. He can ask you some questions and find out what some of your major concerns are, how you feel about money, how you feel about life in general. It's not just about investments. It's not just about money. It's all about lifestyle. If you want to have a conversation with Logan, it's free. There is no obligation. Number to call to make it happen is 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler has also great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, mortgage lenders, real estate agents, even Medicare specialists to help offer you well-rounded guidance in all things financial. The number to call to get in touch, once again, Regary Financial's number, 888-823-PLAN. As always, we're talking about getting you to and through retirement, and we have more coming up on the other side of this quick timeout.
Don't you want to see sharp and not be flat in retirement? This is the Financial Beat.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with the one and only Logan Sadler, often imitated but never duplicated. We're on this radio show every single week talking about getting you to and through retirement. Logan, of course, is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial, serving you in Southern California, offices in Hemet and Redlands. If you just happen to be listening to the show for the very first time today, we welcome you. If you're a longtime listener, always glad to have you here, too. Glad you decided to listen. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to get in touch with Logan Sadler at Regary Financial. If you're calling during the show, just leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back first part of the week about setting up a time to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. Kind of a getting-to-know-you opportunity. You can do it by coming into one of the offices, Hemet or Redlands, or Logan is certainly willing to set up a time to have a Zoom call with you, have a Zoom connection, have a conversation that way, still face-to-face. 888-823-PLAN, your number to call to make it happen. Talk about your life and about what you want to get out of your retirement and all your hopes and dreams and all that kind of thing. Hey, you know, we always talk about these federal crimes that are on the books, and Logan, I'm telling you, going back over all the shows that we have done, we have come up with some really crazy federal laws that are on the books. It would be impossible to count all the federal crimes on the books, and some just seem ridiculous, but we want to make you aware to make sure that you don't run afoul of the law. So,
Well, thank you.
here's one of the craziest ones I've seen lately. It's a federal crime to pick someone up from a federal wilderness area using a hot air balloon. I guess somebody did this one time, and they want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? I've never picked anybody up in a hot air balloon, but
Yeah.
let alone a wilderness area. But I will add that to the list of things to not do.
Have you ever been in a hot air balloon?
You know, I actually haven't, and it's one of those things like a parachute or skydiving. I don't think I'll ever do it.
Yeah.
But it does look really awesome, and I'm just one of those people, though. It's just heights are just not my thing.
Yeah, I would never skydive. I don't want to jump out of a plane. But I did ride a hot air balloon one time. And
How'd you like it?
It was peaceful and scary at the same time. So,
That's exactly how I would think it would be. I'm sure I would enjoy it once I was up there, but it's the whole thought of getting up there that's just not sitting right with me.
yeah, when the only noise you hear basically is when whoever's piloting the balloon, heats up the balloon. You hear this,
Yeah.
it's really loud. But then when that's over, it's very quiet, and the only thing you hear is birds. who
Yeah, it sounds
fly
awesome.
by. It really is.
Maybe I'll do it.
It's cool, but I don't think I'll ever do it again. I'm
One
glad
and
I'm glad I did it once. Hey, let's go to the mailbag because we got some great questions here. No questions about hot air balloon rides, as far as I know. But Colleen is in Rancho Cucamonga, and Colleen says, "Logan, how much money should I have in my emergency fund, and how does this differ from other savings, like for a vacation or my property tax bill?"
Yeah, great question. So, the emergency fund for everybody is a little bit different, right? So what I typically would say is, let's say you need $5,000 a month for all your basic living expenses. This would cover everything, right? A lot of people short themselves on this. So you want to make sure you're doing it correctly. So you want to look at any type of living expense, right? So that means mortgage payments, rent, utilities, right? Things like the car payments, insurance. I mean, everything you want to list. Any entertainment, obviously reasonable, but any entertainment and things like that you typically do on a month-by-month basis that you would probably have to do whether you had a job or not, that categorizes the emergency fund. Now, I would say most people you need 3 to 6 months, and most of the time it's a lot closer to that 6-month time frame, just in case something were to happen. So let's say you did $5,000 a month is what your expenses were. So you need about $30,000 is what you would need in your emergency fund. Now that means that's money you don't touch unless an emergency comes up. Now, I hate to tell a lot of people this, but unfortunately that nice trip to Cancun is not an emergency, right? So that would not categorize as a good excuse to use the emergency fund, right? I hate to say it. But then now once you get that $30,000 in this example, if you spend $5,000 a month, once you get that, close to $30,000 saved, then you could start having the other money that you're going to use for if property taxes come up out of nowhere, or if you want to go on a vacation or things like that, where you can start saving excess money to where if something happens, you still don't have to touch that emergency fund. That is there for if something were to happen and you didn't have a job, you didn't have a paycheck anymore, you would have money to get by for 3 to 6 months.
Okay, let's go to the next question here. It's from Bonnie. And I'm still disappointed you said that trip to Cancun is not an emergency.
I know. I'm in my job. I'm kind of used to spreading some bad news, so I'm getting a little numb to it.
You can't always be nice to people.
No, you got to give them what you got to. They're there for actual advice, right? Not just for me to say yes to everything.
Yeah. Let's go to Idlewild for our next question. It's from Karen. And Karen says, my husband and I are both in our late 50s, and we recently moved to a new home for him to take a position that we know will only last for 2 years. I work from home, so it doesn't matter where I live. I don't really want to buy a house here because I'm not convinced it will be here longer than the 2 years that he has the job. But he doesn't care. He wants to buy and says we can just sell in 2 years if and when we move. Who's right in this situation? Now put on your marriage counseling hat.
Yeah, no kidding. Put me right in the middle, right? Which is typically where I get thrown. But it's okay because I'm always kind of I could definitely play both sides because it's important to understand that both people in some cases might have some very valid points, right? One of the things I would say is typically looking at this type of situation is 2 years is a short time frame, right? Where if you buy a house, I'd always say the pros of buying a house is that the real estate market in that area could increase, right? There could be potentially an increase in value. And there's also a chance it could decrease in value, right? So you got to run those pros and cons where, man, if you paid $400,000 for a house and in 2 years it was worth $350,000, would you not move because of that, right? Would it make you have to stay put? Or, if it went up, would you want to stay there now because you like the area, right? So there's always those kind of things where you got to balance. Typically, I don't mind a short-term rental. That probably sounds crazy for some advisors, but a lot of people think you need to buy. I don't know if that's always the case, especially trying out a new area. Like I was, me and my wife, when we moved to a new area, I actually rented for about 1.5 years, right? Just to kind of see, hey, do I like the area? Do we want to stay here? And if we do, what areas do we like, right? Because when you're new to an area, you don't always know the places to live or where you want to be, right? So I think renting in some cases has a lot of advantages to just trying to get your feet wet. One of the things you obviously have the risk of is if the real estate market appreciates, right, for over 2 years, and maybe you could have bought a house for $400,000 and now you wait 2 years and now it's $500,000, right? And you missed out on some equity there and things like that, but you might have also been able to outweigh the pros and cons. And if you decide to move, you're not tied to anything, right? You just kind of end your contract as the rental and you can hit the road. So I think I would want to have some further conversations and see what the financial situation looks like. Is it something where we have plenty of assets to purchase the house where we're in a good situation? Or would it be a stretch to purchase the house and run risk of us, maybe not being able to retire or things like that? So I want to dig further on the financial end, but just kind of understanding there's definitely some pros and cons to both, but a little bit further of a conversation might be able to decide whether it's better to buy or to rent.
Logan has to wear several hats in this business. And,
yes.
Marriage counseling hat is just one of them. So, Karen, thank you very much for the question. Again, follow up with a phone call if you would, and maybe you and your husband can come in and have a conversation with Logan about all this and get into much more details. 888-823-PLAN. Next question here is from Bonnie in Paris. And speaking of trips, man, would it be an emergency if I took a trip to Paris, France?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you got to do when you get there.
This is different Paris here. But Bonnie says, I want to ensure my assets are passed on to my children with minimal tax implications. Can you explain the basics of estate planning that I should make sure I have covered?
Yeah, so I always recommend, especially when we're talking about drafting documents and things like that, we always recommend we pull in an attorney. We work with a couple different estate planning attorneys that specialize in that field, as well as we've worked with plenty of other clients that have other attorneys that just want us to give them some information and talk about the client together. But just in general, Bonnie, when you're looking at things, you want to look at your house, right? If you have a house, an asset, or a townhome, or an apartment, or whatever it is that you own, you'd probably want that inside of some sort of a trust, right? And that will ensure that inside the trust, you could have that set up to where it goes to the beneficiaries, and things that you want it to go in there can go to those beneficiaries, as well as they go very tax efficiently, because most real estate, you can get stepped up value and things like that on it if everything is done correctly. So, simple wills and trusts can be a huge thing to make sure that any accounts, bank accounts, stuff like that is set up correctly. Then you look at things like 401ks and IRAs and stuff like that. You at least want to make sure that those have named beneficiaries on it to make sure that part of the estate plan is set up. So if something were to happen to you, your Fidelity 401k or your Vanguard IRA or wherever their money is at, you want to make sure you have a primary beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary, right? So that doesn't help with tax impact, but that just helps ensures that you know where it's going to go. And then generalizing your estate plan as far as what assets you have, how they're already being taxed or how they're going to be taxed, and then deciding of how we want this to go, and then getting really a written document in play that just kind of executes where everything is going and gives you a good summary of what the tax implications could look like to you and to the beneficiaries of the estate.
Okay, we have one more question today, and it's from Richard in Winchester. And Richard says, I owe about $50,000 in my house and about $45,000 on a rental property that I've had for several years. I have enough cash to pay off one of them, but not both. Which one should I pay off?
That's a really great question. So let's see here.
Yeah.
So you got about $50,000 you owe on your house and about $45,000 on a rental property, right? So I would honestly probably go towards whatever one probably has the lowest interest rate. Mm-hmm. If they're very, very equal, I would probably say, just depending on the overall situation and what mortgage is higher, what is going to free up the most cash, right? So let's say your payment on the $50,000 you owe on your house, on your primary, if the payment's $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and the payment on the rental house is only, on the rental property is only maybe $1,500 a month, I would probably pay off the higher one first, with the higher interest rate and the higher mortgage, because that's going to free up cash flow that you can now start dumping in to that other one, right? And kind of start snowballing that in there. So I'd really look at, again, which one has the highest interest rate, as well as which one has the highest payment, right? What's going to free up the most cash to start getting the other one paid down, because they're both, depending on what the mortgages are and things like that, once you get one paid off, it should free up a pretty good amount of cash where you probably could dump a lot into the other one and have it paid off in a very short time frame. So, give me a call. I'd love to kind of walk through that with you and see which ones might be the best as far as freeing up cash flow, as well as looking at the interest rates.
Good piece of advice there, Logan. If you fall into this category, if you own property that you want to get paid off, especially if you own rental property, you want to get paid off. My goodness, Logan deals with all kinds of things with clients, and a lot of clients do own rental properties, and of course, a lot of folks do have houses and maybe want to get them paid off at some point. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it can be okay to continue with the mortgage if you have a really low interest rate. So, Logan will talk to you about all of those things. And Logan, I know that you have people in a variety of situations out there. And a lot of people have been listening to the show and just haven't gotten around to making the phone call to arrange a discovery meeting. And we have a very unusual time we're living through right now, inflationary period of time, and high interest rates and everything else. But why is it so important for folks to get in touch with you right now?
Yeah, I think it's just so important because so many of you out there, and again, I know there's lots of baby boomers and Gen X's and Gen Z's and things like that, where everyone's kind of getting really, really geared up for retirement planning, right? So I think one of the biggest things is we see all of these variations, like you had mentioned, Ron. There's so many different things going on in the world right now as far as, markets being volatile, interest rates going up, you got, tax rates and things like that a lot of people are concerned about. And as well as there's a lot of people retiring, right? Or at least gearing up to retire in the next maybe 5 to 10 years. And I think there's so many of you guys out there that I have met with where you don't have a real financial plan, right? And that's not saying that we're the only firm out there that does financial planning, but I do know that there's a lot of firms out there that only sell investments, right? And I think a lot of people that have decided to come on board with our firm, it's because they're looking for a financial advisor that could help sit down and go over, hey, do we need an annuity, or do we need an insurance product, or do we just need brokerage accounts, right? Or do we need to look at tax planning and Roth conversions and income planning and all these other things that are going to be into your retirement plan, not just focusing on an investment, right? So many people get caught up in, should I buy this investment or that investment? If all you're talking about with the advisor is investments, and they're not looking at any cash flows, any income planning, they're not looking at what tax brackets and things like that you can fall into, tax planning topics, you probably don't have that comprehensive plan that you are probably going to need to go through your retirement. So again, we have a lot of clients that come on board. They might have, $300,000, you might have $3 million. And going through our process, we're able to uncover a lot of the things that a lot of clients are wanting to see in their retirement plan by having that comprehensive written retirement plan that they know will get them to and through retirement. So if you're interested in that, give us a call. I'd love to spend an hour with you and see if our firm's a good fit to be the ones to help get you to and through retirement.
888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. Call that number today and leave your name, your phone number. You'll get a call back, and then you can set a very convenient time to have your conversation, either via Zoom or in the office with Logan Sadler. Yep, same guy you hear on this show every single week. He's willing to sit down with you for an hour or so and talk about what's important to you in your retirement and how you can get there. 888-823-PLAN. Good for a Zoom connection or a conversation in the office, either Hemet or Redlands, your choice. 888-823-PLAN. It's free, and there is no obligation involved. No strings attached, in other words. Logan, it's been fun hanging out with you again today. I know you've made a lot of important points for folks out there, and I've learned a lot too.
Well, that's all. What's funny about this show too is I learn a lot too by some of your quotes of the week, some of the crimes of the week, and all that. So as always, I enjoy being here and enjoy obviously talking about retirement education. And I look forward to being back here again next week with another show. Thank you guys for the support.
So do I. Thanks for listening to the Financial Beat. We'll see you again next week. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Logan Sadler.
Regary Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.